Welcome to Tuesday, July 26, 2022, your day with a podcast brought to you by Cowboy State Daily. Cowboy State Daily is more original Wyoming news content than any other news organization in the state. Cowboy State Daily, check out their daily newsletter, sign up for it, or check them out on their Facebook page. Monsoon moisture plus a cool front equals weather fun. Well, weather fun if you're a weather nerd, if you like unsettled, stormy weather with thunderstorms and all those things. Well, parts of Wyoming, Colorado, Nebraska, and Kansas is going to see the monsoon working with this cold front to bring an active weather pattern during the second half of the week, and we'll show you that in detail. A cool front that's already into northern Wyoming and Montana that brought some showers overnight to northern Wyoming, southern Montana, and western South Dakota. That's going to just slowly ooze its way south and west, backing itself up against east of the divide. So we're going to have a cool front come up to the Continental Divide over the next 3 days and kind of stall out and become what we call a stationary front. That will bring a cool, moist, upslope wind flow to areas east of the divide, across eastern Wyoming, western Nebraska, northeastern Colorado. At the same time, monsoonal moisture starts to creep back up from the south again, out of Arizona and New Mexico, through Utah and Colorado, and into southern and central areas of Wyoming and into the Plains states. And that's going to hang around through Saturday. This means there's going to be an increasing threat for severe weather for parts of Wyoming, South Dakota, Nebraska, Colorado, and Kansas, really starting Wednesday through Saturday. We're going to see some thunderstorm activity today pick up, but it's Wednesday through Saturday where we got to keep an eye on things. There is a heavy rain and hail risk. I'm confident to tell you that in those states listed below, either all of them or parts of them, there will be areas getting hail and very heavy rain in this pattern. It's just going to be where. As things come together, as we get a better idea on where the placement of these weather systems are going to be, we'll have a better idea as we get into tomorrow. As we go on into the weekend, temperatures start to rise again, and we do see some heat returning to the high plains and Rockies again next week, although I don't think it's going to be quite as intense as what we had earlier this month. Monsoon moisture showing up very well on the satellite imagery this morning. This area of moisture right here is associated with a low up in southern Canada and its cool front that we just talked about. That's kind of about right there right now. So there's moisture associated with that system. Here's the subtropical moisture. And what's really interesting, we always talk about the ring of fire. It really is showing up well here all along this arch. And you can see the dryness here where high pressure has been so dominant. The clockwise rotation around the high, bringing in that subtropical moisture. And you can see it's just across the far northern counties, Colorado into northern Utah, back west in the Great Basin. Actually, there was some thunderstorm activity over the Sierra Nevada last night and early this morning. Now, the cold front and the frontal boundaries are going to play a real important role here in the coming days. So if you're a weather nerd, this is for the weather nerds. For a lot of you, it's just a lot of squiggly lines with lots of H's and L's on here. But what I want to show you is that cold front that is right along the Montana-Wyoming border right here. This boundary is going to slowly work its way southeast and also push to the southwest. We also have a little bit of a boundary right here in eastern Colorado. What will happen is with this cold front getting pushed up along the divide and getting here and stalling, you get different air masses colliding. And this is what's going to set the stage for what's going to be an active thunderstorm pattern. You can see on the radar this morning along that ring of fire there, this arch of heavier rain, some flash flooding right now in central and southern areas of Illinois and parts of Missouri. And you can see the monsoon thunderstorm activity from last night dissipating this morning, but it'll be picking up again. Looking at the pattern, this is where we are today. High pressure in the Pacific Northwest, low pressure over south central Canada, and high pressure getting suppressed into the southern plains. Look at the winds aloft. They're coming in from the northwest. So you'll notice that today is just going to be just a little bit cooler. About steady temperatures tomorrow, but Thursday and Friday, areas east of the Continental Divide will only be in the 70s to near 80 degrees as that cool air surges southward. By Thursday afternoon, the low is headed up to near Hudson Bay, and there's going to be a significant push of cooler air into the nation's midsection, pushing against the high here, making it more towards the southeast, while the heat continues in the Pacific Northwest. What's going to happen in this pattern? What I'm showing you is for late Thursday afternoon. So I'm going to show you some arrows here. This is why we are concerned about severe weather. We've seen this pattern before, and historically it's a pattern that will do this, bring severe weather to some of you, not all of you. This is mainly for you folks east of the Continental Divide in Wyoming, Colorado, western Nebraska, and western Kansas. This is where it all comes together. Winds aloft with that blue arrow come in from the northwest. So the high level winds are coming in from the northwest. At the same time, lower level winds are coming upslope from a east-northeasterly direction. At the same time, monsoonal moisture is coming up out of the southwestern United States. You can see the wind barbs right here. Winds aloft are coming up from the south, but winds aloft are coming up from the northeast. There's basically a collision taking place. When you have opposing wind directions from the ground level to the higher reaches of the atmosphere, this causes what we call shear. Opposing wind directions cause a lifting motion of the atmosphere. It's inherently unstable. And you see where these arrows are converging? Well, that's where you're going to have some trouble. And look at the temperatures relative to the 30-year average by Thursday afternoon. So you're going to be hearing about all of the heat here, and you should. It's really going to be hot there. But a large part of the nation is going to see a significant cooling trend while it's hot in the Pacific Northwest as we get to the second half of the week here. Now, these are temperatures a good 10, 20 degrees below average Thursday and also into Friday. And here's the moisture flow. This is for this afternoon. See the green is backing up against the Continental Divide here, then the deeper moisture back here into the Great Basin. This is Thursday. So notice the increase today into tomorrow and Thursday. Here's the dry air with the cool front, but here's the deeper moisture that's right there. And then as you look at what is called the precipitable water, if you were to take the atmosphere and measure and say, well, how much water is in the air if it rained? This is just a guide. You shouldn't look at this as a rain forecast, but it's a very good indication of where you start to run into concerns with heavy rain producing thunderstorms. And you see this green area right here. You're talking precipitable waters that are over an inch. And when you start getting to an inch or more, this is where you get those very heavy rain producing thunderstorms. And look at the deep precipitable water right here. And notice it's kind of arching its way up out of the Gulf of Mexico. So we're kind of getting it from two angles. Gulf of Mexico is coming in. So is the subtropical moisture off of the coast of western areas of Mexico. So you can see that there's a convergence right here along and east of the Continental Divide, southeastern Wyoming, all of eastern Colorado, western Kansas, and parts of southern and southwestern areas of Nebraska. So the area I just highlighted, it's very energetic. It's going to have a lot of water vapor available. And this is for Friday. You can see some of that tongue of that moisture right there and that deeper moisture coming on up. So where you see the blue and the green is where you're going to get the thunderstorm activity most active. For today, the Storm Prediction Center has an area right here where a few strong thunderstorms will develop. The lighter green means general thunderstorm activity. But look at tomorrow. Tomorrow, things start to get interesting. And notice where the threat for severe weather starts tomorrow in this area right here. Southeastern Wyoming, northeastern Colorado, western Nebraska, northwest Kansas. And for Thursday, my guess is that we're going to see a graphic that's going to kind of look like this. That will be that dark green or might even be yellow in terms of an enhanced risk. Thunderstorm activity really gets going tomorrow better. We're going to see some thunderstorms today, but the better moisture is still a day or so away. But look at western Nebraska. Look at this area right here. This is where that severe weather threat begins tomorrow. This is Thursday. Notice an increase in the thunderstorm activity, more across southern, getting into central Wyoming and southwestern Wyoming. We wish we could get some better rain to go a little bit further north, but the monsoon is more directed to the south right now. But there is a resurgence of it going more to the north. Anywhere you see this thunderstorm pattern developing, we're going to have that risk of heavier rain-producing showers and thunderstorms and some risk for hail as well. If you will look at the 10-day precipitation forecast, this axis of moisture right here, a combination of that cool front coming in, setting up a boundary, and subtropical moisture overrunning that boundary. So you're going to see more heavy rains, very heavy rains at times in this part of the United States, along with those cooler temperature readings. Now, we talked about the heat returning. This is by next Tuesday into Wednesday of next week. The high exits the Pacific Northwest and it heads east again. So this is going to bring hot weather back. It starts Sunday, starts to heat up Sunday. Through the middle of next week, it gets hot again. But you see this trough right here? It's another frontal system. And by the end of next week, we have another front coming through while the high then pushes back into the central and eastern areas of the United States. So while it will get hot again next week, it may not be as long lasting as the earlier July heat wave we had. Talked about a lot. We'll have more for you tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in.